I live in Phoenix, Arizona, the 5th largest city in the United States. More and more people keep coming into this town every year, and it's a desert. So my question is, where's the water and where's the food gonna come from? It's morning rush hour. Cars are whipping past us. We're in a very urban setting. Maybe, just maybe, if you have some pre-thought out design, a little bit of an engineering background, and a dream, you could design a garden that would produce food in your front and your backyard for your family, for your friends, for yourself, that's done effectively but also beautifully. And that's what my friend Alex here at Flower Street Urban Gardens has done with his beautiful vertical gardens that can be grown on a house or a wall. So not only can you produce food in fruit tree form in the ground, in raised beds, but now also vertically so that you guys can use almost every conceivable place on your property, in your front yard, in your backyard for growing food. Guys, we're here in the early morning hours in Flower Street Urban Gardens with Alex, the founder and creator of this whole garden experience here in the Phoenix area. And I wanted to shoot this as the sun isn't even up yet because you have your beautiful raised beds behind us and you have the lights on out here. And talk to us some of the power of these lights in your garden.
Well, the lights for us, you know, it's a decorative element, but also it's really important for me during the summer when we've got such intense heat here,
like
and
120 days.
Oh yeah, you know, we have the reflective sunscreen, and we're going to put that up so people can see it, you know, for our tours. But it's a way for us to come out in the garden and actually work with not being beaten by the sun.
So you could put something over the top that diffuses the intense heat or light.
Yeah, what we use is a product called Illuminet. And you can find this online, but what's really great about it, it's the sunscreen, but it's basically made of aluminum, super lightweight, doesn't break down with the UV light, and it doesn't drive heat into the gardens. That's why we have this pergola structure here, and it's basically about 7 feet tall.
Yep.
And you want it high enough so that it won't drive into the garden, the heat. Plus, I want it comfortable enough for you know, a bigger guy like you and I to be able to walk through and not have to duck.
Yeah, because we're both a little over 6 feet, so this is nice that we don't have to actually hit our heads.
Exactly, and that's, I think, is important for people to, you know, to fit the gardens to your specifically needs.
Yeah, make the raised beds far enough apart for a wheelbarrow, make the pergola high enough for your height.
Yep.
And I'm always curious, whenever I'm driving around the Phoenix area, it blows my mind how people that work on roadside construction or any kind of construction, whether it's a freeway or a new housing development, they work during the day in the summer in Phoenix. Why don't they set it up so they work at the night? So you have done that. You've set it up so you can work at night when it's like 90 degrees instead of the day when it's 120.
Well, and it can still be above 90, but it's the intensity of the heat that just beats us down, and you know, it's so hard on us. It's hard on the plants. So if we can come out here and enjoy that time when we're not in the intense sunlight, that can be really pleasurable, because a lot of us can miss the gardening experience because it's like, I'm just not going out there.
Yeah, and 2017 was the hottest year ever in Arizona.
And we've had a very warm winter, so who knows what we're in store for this summer here in Phoenix.
Oh my God, well, it's January, middle of January right now, 2018, and your 4 raised beds here are thriving, doing great in this winter season. Talk about some of the varieties you have planted in this raised bed and one behind it.
You know, this variety up here, we've got different Brussels sprouts growing on. We've got some root vegetables in here. We have some peppers that got a little affected by the one night of frost that we had when we were gone over Christmas.
And that's typical here in Phoenix. You might lose your whole tomato patch in just that one night.
Yeah, you can, depending on the microclimate. Here at Flower Street Urban Gardens, this front area, this will get frost, and my backyard won't get frost at all.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So this is the coldest area. So, you know, that's what we've done here. And then behind us, we've got different varieties of kale and some lettuces.
You've got red Russian, dinosaur, curly kale, tree kale.
Yeah. Got a couple of tree kales. I've got one over here and one snuck back by the fennel. We've got a bed here that we just harvested a bunch of cauliflower and broccoli. I still have a couple that have gone to seed back there on that third bed.
Of the broccolis.
Of the broccoli, that we'll collect the seeds, but also this time of year it can be really difficult for our beneficials and bees to find what they need.
Yeah.
So it's, as gardening, if you do have the space to leave some things to go to flower for our friendly bees, that's really important.
And you have a beautiful raised bed full of your cabbage back there.
I like the purple cabbage, and
It looks really impressive.
it is, and that's one of the things that we're going to be sharing this weekend with gardening, because all this is organic. We don't use any pesticides. Back there we did have some hornworms that got after it, and I just pick those and feed them to the chickens.
Right.
So you can see some of the damage on there, but the heads themselves, we were able to control it enough. The heads themselves are looking really good. Some of the first leaves, they'll have the holes in it, and I think it's really important to, you know, as you follow things online and different groups and stuff, people can get really excited about one little incident.
I think excited is a good positive word to use.
Yeah, they can get really excited about that, and for some people it can be very stressful. You know, they've got their gardens, and you know, what do I do about this? And I say, you know, just keep it in check. Go out there in the mornings, and even during the winter, you know, when it's dark until 7:30 like this morning, you know, you can go out there, turn the lights on, you can go through and start picking some of those hornworms off and just keep it in check. And that's part of my sort of morning ritual, is coming out and checking through the gardens before I take off and go, you know, and do work.
You know, and three things. One, get some chickens, like you said, because they love those things like it's a dessert.
Yeah.
Two, it's a sign of healthy plants when you've got the caterpillars and the hornworms coming in, because organic growing makes more delicious produce and healthier produce. They want a piece of that too.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is too, if you keep the plants really healthy and you're doing good organic practices, good organic fertilizers, you've got stronger plants. Absolutely. Which can withstand some of those attacks that they may have from external sources.
And your produce looks beautiful. It doesn't look like it's being decimated. It looks very healthy, and you're using no pesticides and no synthetic stuff at all.
No synthetic.
And the third thing is, if you don't have those caterpillars and hornworms, where are your butterflies going to come from that help to pollinate and make the ecosystem?
Yeah. I think, you know, it's really interesting to talk about the hornworms, because those come from hawk moths, which are, you know, nobody ever sees them.
Yeah.
And they're like, why don't I ever see the moths then? Well, those moths are nocturnal.
Right.
So they're flying around at night, laying those eggs, so you rarely do see them, and they're out there pollinating at night as well.
They're the ones that by your front door where the light is, when you come home at midnight, you see them kind of flying around the light sometimes.
Exactly. So you rarely will see them in the garden. But that's an important part of the ecosystem, and that's part of how we need to, you know, harmoniously work with things and just keep things in check.
You have two plants out in this part of your garden that are looking amazing. This flowering cauliflower. Look how beautiful this looks.
It is beautiful. Still edible, so you can come out and pick this. We use that for garnishes and just some light sautés to top some of our dinners off with.
A lot of people don't realize this is what cauliflower looks like after the head, the tight white head, begins to turn into a flower.
Well, it is cauliflower,
yeah,
so it is a flower. And a lot of the, you know, when I work with school gardens and stuff, it's one of the things I ask kids, how many of you have ever eaten a flower before? No, no, no. And then you say, how many of you have ever had broccoli? How many of you have ever had cauliflower?
Yeah.
And they'll raise their hands. I'm like, okay, then you've eaten flowers.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's important when we do the education programs here at Flower Street Urban Gardens, to be able to let some of those really go to flowers, so then they can connect the dots of what it is that they see in the grocery store or perhaps in their own gardens, and what they're seeing here as it goes through the entire life cycle.
How often do you do those events with the kids, teaching them about gardening?
You know, typically at the Diamondback Stadium for D-back Greens with the sponsor United Healthcare, we're down there once a month.
Wow. And you bring the kids to your raised beds that are on the baseball stadium? On
the vertical gardens there. And those gardens, you know, they've been amazingly productive. We installed those in June of 2017, and we meet once a month. Either it's going to be with the volunteers from United Healthcare, and many times they're bringing in the students, and just getting those kids down there, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
To be able to teach them. And I'll bring down a head of cauliflower or broccoli. I'll bring down moringa.
Because visual aids are powerful with kids.
They are.
Yeah.
I never get to bring them back because most of the time they eat them.
That's great. So, I mean, think about the ripples of that impact you're having on the earth and on your community, because those kids are going to take that lesson and that visual and that taste with them for a long time. And they might be adults and love to garden, not realizing back when they were young kids, Alex from Flower Street helped inspire them.
Exactly. And you know, I think one of the things that's really important is the influence that children have over their parents as well.
Oh my God,
so they're
yeah.
going back and talking to their parents about them and hopefully influence that food change that can occur for those parents to start thinking, you know what, my little Johnny's talking about this, I'm going to start buying some more, and maybe some things that we've not eaten, and have a conversation about it and find out that kids will eat all kinds of things.
Kids will eat usually what the parents eat, right? And kids will also eat more of the greens and the produce if it comes from the garden that they helped with.
Exactly.
I find that kids love to eat it if they had a hand in growing it.
Oh, definitely. If they see it in the garden, they see that. There's just a human connection that we have with plants and gardening. It's something I believe in our DNA as humans.
Yeah.
And if you expose them to that, they realize what it is. You'll be surprised. I'm always surprised on how voracious those kids can just literally eat up the information, but eat up the food as well.
That's a great metaphor right there. And behind us we have this plant of fennel. These guys look so bushy and amazing. And I wanted to ask you, these taste like black licorice. And do you find that they bring in the butterflies, or they bring in the monarch larva? Do you find that?